It's a beautiful day out there today, Hurricane. Now I need to go to the shops, alright? Get you some food. Actually, you don't need any food, you've got loads, but I need some food. And I'm going to go for a nice, long bike ride to the out-of-town shop. I could go to one much more locally, but it's nice to get a bit of exercise, get out in the sunshine. And I thought maybe I'll take you guys with me, because you seem to like it when I... There's my play button, by the way. You seem to like it when I do, like, sort of, I don't know, urban utility bike rides? I don't know. So let's get all the things we need. I'm also going to go to the butcher's on the way back, because I like supporting local businesses, and they sell higher quality stuff than the supermarkets. Here we are in the garage. So I'll take the hardtail, because it's got a big rack on the back, so I can load it up. Not carry heavy stuff on my person. These things are amazing. These are like pannier racks, and they can stick on either side. And actually, when they're fully laden, you can go really quickly, because the bike's much heavier, so it's got more momentum. Oh yes, lock. Depressing to need it, but no. Okay, so I'm going to just start doing a little commentary over the footage. Not really sure how to format this. Normally with these bike trip videos, I just use the GoPro time warp time-lapse feature, but I thought this time maybe we'll experiment, do some different sorts of filming, and I thought, what if we just used real-time footage, but I just don't show the entirety of the journey, because I've done a lot of urban cycling videos around my city of Plymouth in the UK now, and I'm guessing that you guys are starting to get a feel for its layout, or at least the specific routes that I take. It's the same route every time, basically. Now, going through this park here, not because it's necessarily the fastest way, but as you can see, and you can hear, it's a beautiful summer's day. The birds are chirping, the sky is bright blue, and it's the middle of the week as well. I had a day off work, so everything was quite quiet, so I thought it'd be nice to have a slightly more scenic trip through the park. And a bonus of this park is that it spits you out on a cycle lane, which is not actually accessible if you're coming like from the road. So it's a really good cycle lane, but it's also not a good cycle lane in the sense that the only way you can get onto it is by A, coming out through the park, B, having to come to a complete stop on the road if you're on the road, then mounting the pavement, which is quite dangerous, or C, you can sort of bunny hop onto the curb, but that's not the safest thing again, because you have to cross over the pedestrian side, which is technically not legal, and on a road bike it is quite hard to hop onto this curb. So you know, 6 out of 10, it's decent, but it could be better. What's not great is the fact it just ends here and spits you out onto the road, as I've covered before whenever I've used this cycle path. I actually joined the road slightly prematurely because I could see there was a pedestrian here, and I wasn't sure if I would get to the end of the cycle lane before him or after him, and then would have been a bit of a pedestrian bike conflict, so I joined the road a little bit sooner. And oh my goodness, I'm finally at last able to use the bike box. I'm very rarely able to get to this safety start box at this junction because there's no bike lane that filters into it, and usually there is a car in front of you, but on this occasion I was able to make it into the box, and yeah, happy days. And then coming along this road, it's fine, I guess. I get a lot of concerned comments from people who live in the Netherlands and other places where cycling is actually accepted as a form of transport, and they're always horrified by this bike lane, but I think it's pretty good as far as bike lanes go, because it does remove some of the conflict between me and the cars, which is, you know, always a good thing. Although I find this road is actually a lot more dangerous when it's not rush hour, because in rush hour the cars aren't really moving. You're generally going either the same speed or faster than the cars, so there's not really that many opportunities where you can get hit, but when it's empty like this, cars just go absolutely flying. Like, look at this guy. That guy is clearly not doing 30 miles an hour, which is what the speed limit of this road is. But also, like, you can't not blame the council at all for building the road like this. Who in their right mind is going to look at this road and assume it's a 30 mile an hour street? It looks like a 50 mile an hour road. I always love these reminders here that cyclists are just not welcome on the roads. Like, the cars don't have to give way at all here. It's a merge, a high speed merge in fact, but cyclists are expected to come to a complete stop and give way to all the important vehicles on the road. Really makes me feel welcome. Although there is a cycle lane here. Oh, never mind. It's now ended right where the road gets really, really bad, and I've mentioned it before, but there's this thing on the left. It's not usable by pedestrians or by cyclists, but it very easily could have been made into a cycle lane or a sidewalk pavement. So, boo to you, Plymouth City Council. I'm grateful that there are a lot of bad drivers in the UK, but generally the standard of driving is pretty good compared to a lot of countries, so a lot of these cars are giving me a nice amount of room, which is I always do appreciate. There's another example of that's a nice bike lane. It would be a shame if it just ended. And then it's a bit awkward this bit because there's all these big drains and lumps and bumps at the side of the road, so you can't stay as close to the curb as I like staying on this scale of carriageway. Again, luckily there's loads of empty lanes, so cars in theory should have loads of places they can safely go around me, but although I just said that the standard of driving is pretty good in the UK, I always have to assume that the driver that I'm interacting with is an idiot who is blind and hasn't seen me and is drunk and hates cyclists. That's what I have to assume every driver is, and then just helps you stay alive. And here's the state of impatient motorists right here. They couldn't wait 1 second for me to go past before crossing my lane, so I had to slow down. It's like nothing, there was loads of space. I wasn't that annoyed. It's just one of those things where it's like, really, you couldn't just wait for me to pass? And technically, cyclists in this scenario would have right of way with the new highway code changes. Anyway, I've now finished on that big, horrible, scary dual carriageway, and I'm onto the quieter roads now. I could have, if I wanted to take the most direct route, would have continued on that dual carriageway, but it gets really, really narrow. There is not enough room for a cyclist and a car to coexist, and I just didn't really fancy dying, so I decided to come this quieter way. And I'm doing a shopping trip, so yes, it is a utility cycling trip, but I'm doing this because it's sunny, I wanted to get out, so I'm going to a shop that's really far away. I didn't need to go this far at all. I just wanted to have a nice time. I just wanted an excuse really to get out, get some exercise, and also achieve some chores that needed doing at the same time. So I don't mind taking a slightly more leisurely route on this occasion. If I was commuting, it might have been a different story. I don't know what I would have done if I had to commute along that corridor, but alas, I don't, so it doesn't really matter. Now, this is a piece of cycling infrastructure that really annoys me. At the moment, it's great. We've got a big cycle lane here. Sucks that I have to give way at this junction here. I think the priority should have been given to the cycle lane, really, because the cars are entering a car park, a parking lot. Somewhere like the Netherlands, the cyclist would have priority in that scenario. And technically, the highway code, it's very unclear at this point, because if I was cycling on the road, the car would have had to give way for me. But because I'm in the cycle lane, I don't know. My assumption would be that the car would have right of way, but it's very... not a great way of doing things, basically. And like I say, this is a piece of cycling infrastructure I don't like, because that nice cycle lane has now gone, and I'm on this path here, which is a shared path, believe it or not. Plymouth City Council have patted themselves on the back because they've said that we have a continuous separated cycle lane all the way up this road, but this path is terrible. If there's someone with a pram or someone in a mobility scooter, that's it. You cannot safely share the path with them as a cyclist. So I actually just left the path at that point and used the road for a bit and then rejoined once the path widened again. There are plans to dig up this entire road, turn it into a 4-lane monstrous road, but there are going to be dedicated cycle lanes allegedly, so that should get better. But it is another case of the council just adding one more lane for the cars, even though induced demand studies have repeatedly shown that it won't do anything. It will just increase car use. We should be, bolstering bus services and making public transit, more viable for people that currently have no choice but to use cars. And, things like cycling. Especially with the advent of e-bikes, cycling is now more accessible than ever. So I think it's a shame that councils aren't doing more to encourage active forms of transport. Anyway, as you can see, we have arrived at the supermarket or grocery store for my American viewers. It's the biggest Tesco in Plymouth. It's massive, and I've never cycled here before. I've only ever come here in the car. So I wasn't quite sure where the cycle parking facilities were. Most shops in the UK that I've been to, even big ones like this, will have some form of cycle parking facility. However, I did some laps of the car park, and it transpired that there weren't any cycle facilities, basically. I don't know if you can see these pillars on the left, these white ones, they've got those metal rings around them. I think that's the cycle parking. Like, the expectation is you lock your bike to those, but I mean, you're just asking for your bike to just get bashed and dinged by people going past, so I eventually settled on locking it to the side of a trolley park. When I say trolley, by the way, I'm talking about a shopping cart. We call them trolleys in the UK, which I know adds a little fun bit of linguistic confusion, because trolley means something else in the US, doesn't it? It means tram, I think. But then I think you guys have trams too, so I don't really know. If anyone wants to leave a comment down below, I will find it mildly interesting if there is actually a difference between a trolley and a tram. Is it like maybe trolleys have the overhead wires? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, as you can see, I have entered the shop. I'm only going to show like brief snippets because I don't really want to capture like people's faces clearly, because that's a bit weird and I don't have their consent and a bit creepy. So I'm just sort of showing you some shots because I'm aware that a lot of my audience don't live in UK and have never been to a UK based shop, and is it kind of interesting to see how the other side of the Atlantic lives, right? Like you can see the inside of a British shop. And here we get to the best aisle in the whole shop. This is the alcohol aisle, and it's just a magical place. And there is the whiskies. And I was having a look to see what was on sale, and I noticed that Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select was discounted from £45 down to £35. So I decided to no, it was down to £30 I think, so big discount. So yes, got the imported stuff. And I got asked for ID, guys. I looked like I was 18 according to this checkout person, so I was very pleased with that. Thank you. But yes, everything is now bought and paid for, so time to get out of here, man. I don't know. But yeah, added it all to the bike again, turned on my flashing light, which probably didn't add that much visibility given how bright and sunny it was, but you can never be too careful when you're sharing the road with 2-ton death machines. And then it's time to set off, and I went out a different way to the way I came in, just so I could make use of a little cycle lane, which was actually quite difficult to join from the perspective of a cyclist. A lot of the time in the UK, if there is a cycle lane on the pavement, there'll be like a little place for cyclists to mount the pavement. There'll be like a little, like an on-ramp sort of thing, but it turns out on this part there just isn't, except for this very, very tight turn here, so I had to slow right down in order to safely board the cycle lane. So I'm happy there was no one behind me, otherwise they'd have had to slow right down, and that's a high-speed entryway to a high-speed road, so I don't think the car would have appreciated me making them slow down. So if there was a car behind me, I probably would have just joined that road, because I'm on that road now. But yeah, there was nothing behind me, so I thought I'll just slow down so I can join the cycle lane. And yeah, now I'm on the main road, and my bike is considerably more heavy now because I'm carrying so much stuff, so it really, really flies down the hills. So yeah, pedaling back was a breeze. You might have noticed most of the way here was uphill, which means that most of the way back will be all downhill. So it's a very, very nice, cycle back, really, because it is basically the inverse of the journey to the shop. I'm not going to show it in quite as much, to quite the extent I showed the journey to the shop. But I thought I'd just show a little, I don't know, series of clips of me commuting back. Yeah, look at that. I've sailed past those cars there, and they haven't caught up to me yet because I'm going so fast, guys. There is a bit of a hill actually. This is like one of the two sort of uphill bits coming up, so I lost some speed there. But now I'm back on the downhill again. Another bit where the cyclists have to give way to allow the cars to enter this road at speed. It would be nice if maybe the cycle lane didn't have to cross the entryway like that, but what can you do? It's Plymouth City Council. You can only really expect so much of them. And then I'm on this road here, which, as you can see, is terrifying if you're not in a car. But it was fine. Again, it's downhill, so you can maintain a pretty good pace. And then I left the road a little bit earlier than I normally would to go down these quieter streets because I'm going to the butcher's now. And the butcher, it's a bit easier to get to this way. Well, actually, it's not. But the easiest way to get there is on a very busy road, which is very narrow, and cars can't safely overtake you. But they still overtake you anyway, and it can get quite hairy. So I go down these back ways. We've got a lovely sea view just there, right in the distance. So it was all worth it in the end. And this route is entirely downhill, pretty much. The other way does involve a little bit of an uphill at one point. And yeah, we've got some very quintessential Plymouth architecture here. Plymouth is a big mixture of Victorian houses and post-war houses like this. You can just tell where all the bombs dropped in the city, where there's Victorian houses suddenly end and then the post-war stuff comes back, and now we're back on Victorian houses. Plymouth is a naval port, so it got basically flattened in the Second World War. And yeah, then at this point there is a temporary light there. I wasn't sure how this one works, but a lot of those temporary lights, traffic lights, they operate on a sensor basis, so it won't change green unless it can detect a car waiting. And a lot of the time they just can't tell if it's a bike or not, so it will just never change green. So I went down that little cobblestone service road to get to here, and then I had to get to the butcher, which is on the other side of this road. And this is one of a big grievance I have with this little area of Plymouth. So this is a nice shopping street just here, But there's loads of on-street parking and little car parks, but there is absolutely nothing to lock a bike to. I initially tried locking my bike to this like lamp post right outside the butcher, but the lamp post was actually too wide for me to get my lock around it and my bike, so I had to go and trudge off and find another one. And because this one's a little bit further away, I had to take all my pannier racks off my bike, both my lights, because the bike was going to be out of my sight. Whereas if I'd managed to lock it to the first lamppost, I would have been able to see it from the butcher's, and I could have left some stuff attached to it. Yeah, that was the butcher, by the way. I didn't show that much of it because you guys, I guess know what a butcher's looks like. But yeah, it'd be a real shame. Like, there is definitely space on this little stretch of road for just put some Sheffield stands up. Like, they don't take much space up and they don't cost a lot to install. So I think it'd be nice for Plymouth City Council to consider installing some bike racks there. I know this is going to fall on deaf ears. I've just come to accept that. But I don't know. I can dream, right? Anyway, that's it. Those are pretty much all the errands I needed to get done. We're just going to just cruise back home. Picked up my butcher's meat. I got some sausages, a couple of steaks, and some fresh cheese, and some fresh pasta sauce from the local farm. So did my part supporting local businesses. Is there a greengrocer nearby Mutley? I don't know. Usually I just use that butcher. There was another butcher on Mutley Plain, but that's closed down now, which is a shame. I do like supporting butchers. This is kind of a weird, no one's going to relate to this. Yeah, anyway, we're just going to crossfade across to me arriving at my garage so I don't dox myself. Beautiful shot of all my kayaking stuff. I really need to sort out these shelves. There's so much like junk on them. Although every time I look at it, I'm like, actually, I do need all of it. Anyway, I'll hand you over to live Matt again. So we're back. So see how much stuff we got. Most important payload. So I think that's pretty good for a shop on a bike. I mean, I think it's more of an American tradition to like do a whole week's worth of shopping in one trip, whereas I think in the UK it's more common to just buy for a few days, like do smaller trips more frequently. Right, phone lights need to go on charge. Oh yeah, before I'm going to sort all this out myself, but we need to just make sure Hurricane is okay after my traumatic absence. Where is he? Is he in my office? He's not in my office. Oh, there he is! Hello? You having a little sunbathe? Oh. He just looks so annoyed that I've interrupted his sleep. Look, Hurricane, it's the audience. What do you think of them? Guys, be sure to like and subscribe for Hurricane. He's just a very lazy cat. Oh, he's giving you a little sniff. Hello. Patreons and channel members, thanks for supporting this garbage. Yeah, that's it. I've got nothing else to say.